How are we all this morning on this incredibly bright, sunny, perfect autumnal morning in the northwest of Ireland? I hope you're all keeping well. I was coming in this morning and everyone had their headlights on. I was like, what's this all about? And apparently it's to do with awareness of mental health. Geez, then, but if that's the case, then 90% of the people in this country are already mentally ill. I don't think anyone could disagree with that over the last 2.5 years. Then I was just on the radio, and they were interviewing like very phony people talking about their mental health issues, and you could always tell the real ones who had mental health issues from the fakes. The real ones, they don't have that. The ones who have, there's all kinds of fakes out there who claim they suffered from depression, and it's all me. Everything is me. They're obsessed with themselves. And you realize after talking to them for a few minutes that their so-called depression is derived from the world not doing for them what they expect from the rest of the world. They're toddlers who never grew up. And then there's the real kind of depression where they don't kind of necessarily talk about me. They tend to just like be quiet. There's two ways you can tell where a person has fake depression. You see, just because someone says they suffer from depression or are getting mental health advice or medication doesn't necessarily mean they have depression. There's two ways of telling them. Either it's a personality disorder or it's genuine mental health. A person who suffers from depression genuine depression tends to be very quiet about it. They don't talk about it. They certainly don't tell you every 5 minutes they're going to commit suicide. That's pity ploy by male predators, usually looking for sympathy. These types also tend to be white knight types, and they also tend to be, when things are going not the way they want, they tend to be play the little boy lost. Poor me, I'm so depressed. I'm not having a bad day. But if they kind of get in a role of ascendancy where they're in charge, a phenomenal element of cockiness and smugness overtakes them, where suddenly you're like, hold on a second, where's the depressed motherfucker? Where's he gone? Suddenly you have this smug asshole who's like full of himself, and he's acting like he's the big shot in town. That's how you know a fake depressive male. A fake depressive female, all she ever does is talk about herself. Everything comes back to her. Me. And they're not actually depressed. They have a phony or false personality crisis, and they compensate by the mistakes they make in life, the people they alienate and piss off and abuse, by saying, oh, I suffer from depression, I suffer from mental health. Now, there, of course, is people that really have mental health and depression, but they're a very small number. This is the myth that it's very common. They're a very small number. And these people tend to be creative and make very good artists. They make very, very good artists and creators. And Alan Watt, this is all born out, the rest of them, the other bunch, do personality crisis types. That's all born out of Alan Watt on Cutting Through the Matrix used to talk about this years ago, and it's true. That there's this concept that we're always supposed to be happy. You even see like the WEF, you will be happy and you own nothing. This concept of being happy is totally false. Human beings are not supposed to be happy all the time. It's a completely false, fake thing that makes no sense. We're supposed to be contented. That's where we're supposed to be. And you meet a lot of older people in their 70s and 80s, and you talk to them, and they have a sense of contentment about them. That's what we strive for, contentment. And if you're not contented, then you obviously work on things to make yourself contented. But that doesn't mean you have a mental illness. Nowadays, that's used to say, I have a mental illness now, I'm not contented. Therefore, I need to go sign myself into a mental hospital or get medication or whatever. We're not supposed to be happy all the time. This is a myth created by psychiatry, as Alan Watt on Cutting Through the Matrix used to say. It's just a complete fallacy. It's a complete falsehood. You're not supposed to be happy all the time. And if someone's happy all the time, they're either on medication or there's something wrong with them. But they don't call it the blues for nothing. Tremendous art has been created by people who had real depression in the bottom of the pit and worked their way, pulled themselves up. And often they use art to do this. And a lot of the great art, and I'm not just talking about painting and songwriting and things like that, I'm talking about like writing. Nietzsche, for example, and even great philosophies, are born out of this struggle up out of genuine depression. So there's almost like it's almost like I know it sounds, I'm not condescending or patronizing people who suffer from mental health issues, real ones, but there is almost a gift element to it. And in fact, I know people that do suffer from genuine depression, and I do tell you it's kind of like a gift because it helps them create and pulls themselves. And when they look back on what they created to pull themselves out of that bleak spot, they're usually incredibly, amazed by what they've actually pulled out of themselves. Now, everyone else suffers from, in the doldrums, down, not feeling well, not feeling right. But that's not, feeling a bit shitty, feeling kind of crappy, feel low self-esteem. We all have that. But that's not a mental illness. That's just part of being human. But nowadays, everything is a mental illness. And so many people think, I suffer from mental health issues. What's wrong with you? Oh, someone said something on the internet I don't like. See, a lot of it is infantile and childish. A lot of it is cowardice. A lot of it is cowardice. A lot of these professional depressive men are cowards, and they can achieve nothing else in life except going, my mental health, I'm down, I need something. And then a lot of them tend to be like white knight, wife beaters and that kind of thing. Like the way, behind every white knight, every single white knight is a wife beater, because the same sense of control of his woman that he's rescuing is also the same sense of control he will impose upon her when, she's not behaving, she's not performing, she's not being agreeable to what he wants. It's all about control. These fellas who go, oh, if anyone ever says anything to her or anything like that, that's all within reason. But there's some fellas who are like fucking obsessive over it, and that's a white knight. And the white knight is usually always always a wife beater, or if not mental, psychological, always. And you can always tell them. They'll try to, you can always tell someone who. Let me tell you something. A man who has a pet snake, a giant python or cobra or something like that, is a man who generally thinks he can own women. And he will he will manipulate and trap those women the same way he's trapped the snake. Here's one for you, girls. You can take this to the bank. If you meet a guy who has a big snake, what that's really saying to you is that this great predator of the jungle, look at me, I'm his master. He's in a glass tank. I'm the big man. Well, that's you. You'll be the next one. You'll be the next python or constrictor or a boa or whatever, anaconda in his glass cage. That's what the men who are attracted to those snakes tend to be incredibly possessive, insecure males who play the white knight act and also the pity ploy. Poor me, I'm all alone. I need someone to love me. Blah 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 blah. Look at my big snake. And they're also the same ones when they get in a position of power. Suddenly people are like, where's the depression gone? Because they get very cocky and arrogant. Now, chicks will have those big snakes. I don't know what's about it. You just need dick. That's all going on there. Those big fucking snakes shouldn't be in a tank. Like, that's Jesus Christ. It's cruelty. It's beyond, even though they're fuckers who eat, like, they're nasty fuckers, those snakes in the wild, but they're just doing their snaky thing. They shouldn't be in someone's house in a fucking tank. I mean, the first, if I go into someone's house and they have a big, huge fucking snake like that, like the fucking king of the jungle kind of thing, like an anaconda or a python a boa. And I look at them and the first thing I think, oh, he's a fucking loser. That's the first thing. Especially if he parades the snake. If he takes pictures of himself with the snake and stuff, it's like, oh, he's a fucking loser. That's a fucking loser. That's a fucking loser. And his ex-wife, probably his 5 or 6 exes probably have a fucking the same story to tell, and it's all the same thing. Control. These, you know, and they're the types that kind of isolate the women from their social network. You'll find that always happens with those types. They have the woman, right, and they'll immediately, before while they're white knighting her, they're destroying the social network around her, isolating her from her friends, isolating her from her family, isolating her from the people she knows. And what he's doing, she's the new snake in the tank, in the glass cage. And then when he makes his move, she will basically find out in time that she's just like the snake. She's trapped in his little fucking world. And so that's one for you. That's one for you, ladies. If he has a big snake, he's got a small dick and a big fucking need to control. Always remember that. Always remember that. And he'll use pity and his fake depression, and but once he's in any kind of ascendancy, my God, will the arrogant smoke fucker come out, like a switch that'll come on, and then when his woman then leaves him he'll have a picture of himself like this on YouTube on his Facebook page. I'm sad. I'm alone. I need love, and the cycle begins again. The cycle begins again. And they're nearly always wife beaters, if not physical wife beaters, it's psychological wife beaters. That's their culture. But then you have to ask yourself, but the women who are attracted to these kind of fellas, it's like it's a symbiotic thing. You're just playing out a role. You're just fulfilling the other part of that archetype by jumping in and wanting that. And any negative repercussions and misery that comes out of that, it's your fault. Your fault. The red flags were there. The red flags were there. You know, the picture of him with that snake around his neck, or when you walk into his house and there's a snake in the fucking tank. That's it. You'd right there and then, you should run a mile. And I bet you've all got stories like that. Because a normal, healthy man doesn't have a desire to control an animal like that. Doesn't have a desire to control, or want to control an animal like that. It's like you look at that animal and say, that fucker belongs in the jungle. That fucker belongs in that bastard belongs in the jungle. Also, a lot of these fellas, they do things like when no one is looking, they'll feed live kittens and puppies to those snakes. Oh, they do that. That's one of the big things you never find out about. These fellas who keep these giant anacondas and giant boas and giant all in their house. When no one is looking, they'll be feeding it live animals. Yep, just for their own, like, more of the control thing. How you have your destiny, and they're throwing the tank to be eaten by the anaconda. Absolutely, that goes on with these types a lot. And then they're on the internet going, "I'm so depressed. I feel like ending my life." And then they go back home and they throw a rabbit they got from the pet store in with the fucking boa, a live rabbit. Yep, that's what they do. That's what they're like. And you have to wonder, and you look at these bitches who are attracted to these men, and it's like, yeah, you know what he was like. The warning flags were there, but a lot of them tend to be, it tends to be kind of a sadomasochism thing. These fellas are also into burning women with lighted cigarettes and things like that, and you know, that kind of thing. And the women who are attracted to that, they're turned on by that. They're sexually turned on by that, and so you get these that kind of carry on between the two of them. And then invariably it ends, and she's like, "Oh, he was a monster," and you're like, "No shit, Sherlock." You know, basically, it's basically the whole yin and yang thing. It's like his monster can't exist without her monsteress. As simple as that. And it's again, I always talk about archetypes. If, these women go, "I'm always attracted to losers." Have you tried not being attracted to a loser? And then you break the archetypal bonding. The same thing. These women never learn, and they're attracted to the same losers over and over again. And what they do is, because these losers have isolated them from their previous support network, they have no one to go back, except for Simpson losers who want with a wet spot on the front of their pants. They don't want to go back to. I know where the fuck did this conversation come from? Yeah, I guess because of like got this thing about mental health, and it annoys me because people who are really mentally health have real mental health issues, and I know you are out there. You're you're kind of have your own crisis and pain diluted by these bitches and these like losers at the office, these fucking idiots who have the blues or are a bit down or personality disorder. Attentions, they're not getting enough attention. Oh, my latest Instagram post didn't get enough attention. I'm suffering from mental health. It's a shame that people who have real mental health problems have to deal with that. And that's what this whole thing is like when you have these like mental health awareness week or mental health awareness thing. They're all for like people who don't have mental issues, who may have been depressed or down once or twice to get attention, pretend they're sick. And it also serves the big pharma companies who can prescribe entire families with strong psych meds. It also serves these NGOs, conquangos, and these government body groups and these big charities. Who it doesn't serve is the people that genuinely have mental health problems, because they're lost among the personality crises. The me types or the control freaks who didn't get what they wanted, and then they go into depression, for sympathy. So it's a sad situation because they talk about there's lots of mental health awareness there is today, and there is, but because of all this mental health awareness, the people who are genuinely need mental health help aren't getting it, because every narcissistic personality disorder, white knight, simp, and so on is telling the world he or she has a personality, has a mental illness, when it's really just a personality crisis or personality disorder. I see it all the time, very common. And it's always me, 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 me. And the only time they intervene to be sort of like helpful to another person is when they can try and get something off them. You'll always find that. It's the white knight thing again. The white knight is in it for himself, not for anyone else. The white knight thing is purely just a way for losers who have nothing else going for them to hit on women. That's really that's what that's about. It's like a pity plot, and that's they couple that with the pity ploy thing. But it's for the white knight thing is for guys, for control freaks who have no game. That's what that's about. It's always the pity ploy, no game. You have a man with charisma attracts women just by his very nature, and it doesn't matter what he looks like, and it doesn't matter what he, if he's poor or rich or anything. You will find that the women will, like good-looking women, will be attracted to, and young women, much younger than him, and like women with lots of money and everything, will be attracted to this fella because that charisma is not something you can buy in a shop. Charisma is not something you can rent like a tuxedo. Charisma is something that you have to spend years working on, and when you see real charisma, it's so in a man or a woman, it's such a powerful thing to behold. It's like you look at them and say, that person is kind of like what I would want to be. And you don't have to be special or an amazing. I know a guy has unbelievable charisma, and the poor guy, his life is horrible. Not horrible, but it's like so stressful. He's married, and he works his ass off all week, right? And he has 3 boys. One is 16, one is 14, and one is 11. And they're all involved in sport in a big way. And they all play different sports. So one plays rugby, one plays soccer, and the third one plays Gaelic hurling. And he has to, because of the nature of those sports, they're either playing Saturday or Sunday leagues. So he has to spend his whole weekend bringing one of the kids to games to play, right? On top of that, there's the midweek training things that he has to bring them to, and they all go swimming on Wednesday. That's just literally he's not complaining or anything, because he loves being a dad, and he's obviously a very good father. But my God, that poor man works his ass off for his kids, and a very honourable thing that is too. I mean, it's a very honourable thing. But if there's a fella who should be suffering from depression because he literally has no life. His kids are like I've seen him. He sits down in the house, and he'd be sitting there talking, and he'd go the kid's name isn't Sean. I'm just gonna say he goes, can we have the drop Sean off the rugby training thing. Give us like 10 minutes. He'd watch a DVD or something while I'm away. And he'd run out, get back, and then the other young lad will come down the stairs, and he'll say something like, the football club the soccer club is going off to play in Donegal this weekend, and I need money for the bus fare and the trip, and he's running. Fuck. So he's not running when he's. I'm in endless admiration of this guy when he's not running around bringing the kids to rugby, soccer, or hurling training or matches, and the midweek swimming session. He's putting his hand into his pocket to get the money for something else. It's unbelievable. I mean, I'm a few. He used to. I used to go over to his place because when I used to really like watching Ireland playing soccer, he had the account. It's one of the sports channels where you could watch all the games, and so I used to go over the ones that weren't on the regular TV. And honest to God, that man, about the 8 or 9 times I went to watch the soccer on TV with him, never once saw the full game while I was there. Always the kid would come downstairs and go, Dad needs something. I need you to, and this is just, and it's always related to the sport thing and he gladly did it. And he said, "Oh Jesus, Thomas, sorry, I have to run for like 10 minutes to do this. I have to, or a knock on the door. Oh, it's from, it's Jerry from the rugby club, and he wants to see. It's just, I mean, that fellas like that are like heroes to me, And on top of that, he maintains a good demeanor. He's friendly, he's kind, and he works his bollocks off in his regular day job. And he's glad to do it because he knows the effort involved. He doesn't say, "Oh, poor me, 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 me." But it was like he's one of those fellas I look at and I go, "I'm glad I never had kids." Not because that's the reason why. I mean, I've always been very open about that I never ever wanted kids. Why? Because I'm selfish and self-absorbed. With that way, I I wanted to do all. I had all these plans when I was a kid, and I said I'm going to do them all. And yeah, I definitely will have a strong relationship with women or a woman, but I'm definitely not getting kids. I don't want that. I want if I'm involved in a deep relationship, it's with another adult, and I don't ever want kids because they'll just get in the way of the things I need and want to do. And that's I'm very honest and open about that. And many people that have kids tell me, "Oh, you're right. I kind of, fair play. You're right. You thought about it and you did it." And this is what, and that's then you realize that most children are brought into this world by mistake, or just by accident, or one night stands. Imagine your whole life. Imagine you knocked up some bird that lived down the road when you're 18, and for the next 18 years and maybe more, you're stuck with that kid. Now, I know lots of them are very happy with that, and good luck to them, and they love the fatherhood aspect of it. In fact, it was something good that came out of a relationship. But my Jesus, they're carrying a cross I'm far too self-absorbed to carry, and I get the whole thing of the experience. I mean, I know people that said like it was I've raised 2 kids, and fuck me, it was rough, it was difficult. But he goes, on the other hand, I learned a lot of things about myself. So, I find that part of it very interesting, and that learning and discovering things about themselves in those situations I'm not passing judgment if some guy knocked up the girl down the road. I'm just saying what I observed. And they tend to get treated very badly too. Like a young guy who might be 18 and he knocks his girlfriend up who's 18, they tend to be treated very badly by society. And it's not because of a taboo. They go into hospitals, and the father isn't, when she gives birth to the baby, the nurses and doctors don't treat the father with respect, even because he's 18. Get a lot of that. It's awful actually what's done to those young people. But and And when they go looking to like rent an apartment, the landlords are looking at them like, you've already got a kid. And it's really terrible. It's terrible what's done to them. So that's why, contraception, kids, contraception. But I don't know why I'm talking about this morning. I guess I don't know why, but it's like, yeah, it's just like I'm like fucking what's your name, Dr. Ruth or something like that. No, Dr. Phil. That's what I'm like. I'm like Dr. Phil today. Dr. Thomas. Yeah, but I do. I see that man, that friend of mine, some of the three boys, run off his ass. But again, I look at that and I see it's a noble pursuit that he's on. And when those kids are grown up, you can tell all those kids are going to grow up really well. And when they do leave home, he'll do well out of it. But my God, what a sacrifice! What a sacrifice in the interim! What a sacrifice! And literally, the poor man, he sits down. Thomas, do you want a beer? Yeah. Goes into the kitchen, comes back out. Oh, I've got the drop shot. Hey, his choice, but he's happy doing it. So I guess that's like what the talk today is about. Contentment. That you should not seek happiness, but seek contentment. Seek contentment. And when you hear the WEF say things, you will own nothing and be happy, well, they literally mean that. Own absolutely nothing, not even your body. Their plan for the future is, and I'll be talking about this in a more fleshed out, literally, way in England on December 5th in St. Anne's near Blackpool at New Horizons. They literally want, their ideal human being will be a blob of proteins, fats and minerals and amino acids. Sort of like an uncooked egg with all implants going into it, transmitting Bluetooth signals to a super mainframe computer, and it's just living in a virtual world of make believe and happiness. And that's literally what they want from the human. That's what they want. There's a very dark spiritual reason for this, which I will talk about in that lecture. But yes, that's what they want when they say you will literally own nothing. You'll be nothing. You see, the globalists for some reason do seem to be aware of what they call the problem of consciousness. And that consciousness seems to exist regardless. You've seen these things like people born without brains, and yet they're perfectly normal people. And then one day a doctor, as an adult, looks inside his head and goes, "You have no brain." He goes, "What?" My wife's been saying that for years. No, I mean, you literally have no brain. Fuck me, I don't. And how am I having a normal life with a job and being... And they know that the consciousness is further than just neurology. They know this. And they know they can't be rid of it. They know they can't be rid of it. So that's what they want for the future. Protein blobs, carbon blobs, with Bluetooth transmitters in them, being given external stimuli by a false reality in a mainframe. That's what they want for them in the future. That's what they want from you, because then they want ultimate control. It's funny, we're all back to that. Now, there's another thing I was saying earlier about the loser who keeps a big snake at home, and as a sign of his domination, a need to dominate others and own others. Well, don't all these globalists all have like zoos and menageries and wildlife preserves in Africa and their own private hunting grounds? You see, the sour apple never falls far from the tree. Sanguine gnosis, and have a nice weekend. My eyes adored you, though I never laid a hand on you. My eyes adored you.